I carry a sadness in my heart for the unnecessary millions and millions of people who go through life without purpose. I carry a sadness in my heart, and I'm out to fix that.
So I noticed several of my friends from college, when we graduated college, they had all these incredible dreams and plans and goals. The world was in front of them, and they had all these ambitions and desires that they wanted to chase after and go after. And after several years of entering the real world, of getting a job, it seems that for several of them that those ambitions and dreams have kind of fizzled out, faded away, and the disillusionment has come in and stagnation has settled in. So could you talk about that? What's going on? Why that happens to not just my friends, but so many other people, and how to change that?
Sure, and I'll go to the other end of the spectrum. People my age, they are feeling that as well, but a lifetime of that, unfortunately. They feel stagnant, caught in stagnation traps, I call it, stuck in routine ruts. Life didn't turn out the way that when they were young, in college, and before, had thought it would. They sort of go around with this feeling like, God, there's got to be more to life than what I'm experiencing. There's got to be something more to all of this. So you see it with your friends. I've seen it with my friends. And I'm going to talk about what the problem is and how to fix it. So the problem stems to what I call the purpose of life. You must have a purpose to life. And most people don't have a strong purpose. They don't feel a strong purpose. And that lack of purpose most oftentimes can be pulled back to their jobs or their careers. Because that is, your job, your career is where you put your effort into to try to be of value to society. So that's where you can develop purpose or have a purpose in life, to present more value, to provide more value to society. But our jobs don't, for the most part, offer that to us. They don't offer us the ability to have purpose, have a purpose to our lives. And we can break that down to understand why that is, and then how to fix that, because it is very fixable. As you know from reading my works, this is very fixable. But people go through their entire lives without ever fixing this. So when they get to be my age, they think, wow, I missed out. There's got to be something more. I always thought there was something more, but I'm disappointed. I'm disillusioned with life. So here's the crux of the problem. It's the way jobs have been designed. And jobs have been designed in the wrong way, I'll just say, for lack of better words. Just companies, businesses have been designed wrong. Also, when we realize how they're wrongly designed, those of you who have a business or plan to start a business, well, this is going to be gold to you. Okay, so let's go back to the average person working an average job. As a matter of fact, I'm going to just pull up, I just checked on Google the other day, what type of jobs are the most common jobs in America. And it came up with a couple of things. One was retail clerks, and the other was, which sort of fits in with that, is fast food and counter workers. So if I walk into a McDonald's, for example, and ask the 40-year-old counter worker, the cashier, hey, do you have a purpose? Have you found your purpose? I see you smiling. What do you think? Do you think they're going to say, oh, yeah, man, I've found my purpose here. I've been working here 15 years, man. I found my purpose in life. You think a counter worker at McDonald's is going to say that?
Very few.
Right. And it's not knocking that. In fact, those are, if you need a job, that's a value production, and you're contributing to society and you're earning a living. But I dare say when you're my age, and if you've been a fast food counter worker all your life, you are going to feel, what did I miss? I thought there'd be something more to my life than this. I think we can all agree on that, right? So the problem with most jobs stems back to what initially was a tremendous boost to our standard of living, which was the division of labor. We'll go back 100 years ago to Henry Ford and how he perfected the division of labor, and Milton Hershey perfected that in his candy manufacturing. The production line just went like wildfire across the country after it got started and was really perfected by Henry Ford.
Right, in the Industrial Revolution.
Right, in the Industrial Revolution, and standards of living soared. But here's the thing. The division of labor was meant for manufacturing, for labor-intensive jobs. The division of labor was really never meant for business. And here's why. Business is mind-intensive business, companies, creating value, increasing value to increase wealth. Business that's mind-intensive, creating, building values, building wealth as a result of building values. That requires the mind. But most businesses are broken down by the division of labor. And here's how it happens on a couple of different levels. One is, it's just easy. You start growing a business, and you have these physical tasks. You delegate it. You say, here, you do those. I don't want to do those, right? And so you just keep delegating. And what happens is, as the business grows, it goes into these departments or these jobs that are very specialized. You're specialized on just doing these tasks that were delegated to you. So those are what I call dead-end tasks. They're very specialized. They're not integrated at all with building the value of the company or building the wealth of the company. They're just a to-do list that you do when you come in every day. And businesses are broken down largely by this type of division. Delegate. We have departments. We have all these specialized jobs. Just do your job, and then you have upper management that does any of the thinking and so on.
So it's over-specialization and essentially creating robots out of human beings.
Right. Good way of putting it. You have automatons there working for you. They're not thinking. And what a waste of the human life that is. Because what makes us special and unique is that we all have minds that can be creative. Now, if you were really a smart owner of a company, wouldn't you want to tap the greatest asset that every person in your company can provide, and that is their minds, right? But big companies, they don't do that. You're pigeonholed into these specialized jobs. Just shut up and do your work and pay your taxes, right? Cookie cutter jobs. That's what most big companies are broken down by.
It's just do your 10 tasks, turn them in at the end of the week, and if you do that, good. Then you do the same thing next week.
Be sure you pay your taxes and on with you. Now, the elite few, what I call, the leaders, right? The leaders at the top, they benefit from everything, but what a loss to the company by not tapping everyone's creative minds. So I recognized this early on in our business, in our publishing business. And I was determined to bring out the great creativity in every person who worked for me, even at the so-called lowest levels. Let's just go down to the cleaning, what custodians, right? Set them up as little entrepreneurs so they can get creative and be productive and be a better value creator contributing to your company. Now, every company can be broken down by not the division of labor, but what I call the division of essence. The essence of business is to build value and wealth. That's the essence. Essence can be brought to every single job, but it's a very different breakdown of a company, very unique. And as I said, any entrepreneurs or people who have a business, this will be gold to you because you will increase your productivity and, more importantly, the creativity in your company by bringing essence to everyone who works for you. So you get their creative minds contributing to your company, to your business.
Right. And so just to break that down a little bit further, is the essence of business is to build value and wealth. Yes. And the essence of man is to create. Yes. And so the human mind has the most powerful mind in the known universe. Yes. And yet so many businesses are not taking advantage of that creativity to build the wealth and value for the company rather than just maintain it through routine tasks.
That's right. And what a beautiful relationship human beings and business have, right? Like you said, business, it thrives on creativity because creativity builds values and wealth. Human beings, the essence of human beings is creating value. We're the only thing that can create value in the known universe. So you have the essence of human beings and the essence of business just marrying right up there in a beautiful marriage, a beautiful relationship. So what my works do is it shows you how to break business down by the division of essence. The division of essence, not the division of labor, but the division of essence. The essence of the business is building, creating value and wealth. And the essence of a human being is create values. So what an amazing relationship you can have. I've done that with my business. I did that with the business prior to my business when I worked for my father. Then when I started my own company, I applied that, and we've had tremendous success as a result of that. And I practice what I write. I write about this. I do this. You and I were talking the other day. One thing that really stands out in my writings is that I write by what I did. I don't spin inner logic like a lot of business books, particularly business books. Well, there's a lot of business books, but particularly business books in the past when I was your age. A lot of inner logic being spun out there, and I had to go through and sort of expose the myths that were out there, so to speak. But my business books, business, psychology, all of my books, political, come from my own actual hands-on experience. Nothing's interspun. And where I do go beyond my own experience in my business books, when I extrapolate out massive size business that's beyond the size of my business, first of all, I let the reader know that I am going beyond my own personal experience, number one. And number two, I say I will not break the line of logic. There's temptation there to spin inner logic and to do really good sounding phrases and promises and so on, but I don't ever go there. My books are 100% real. In fact, throughout my books, you see a lot of my handwritten notes and power thinking and my handwritten many days. You see my handwritten division of essence. You see it all there. It's the real deal, but it really, really works. Okay, now back to your friends. And I'm going to say it again right here on our podcast that I'm not a big fan of college anymore. I'm just not. There's a lot of reasons behind that. But I think you're seeing with some of your friends the disillusionment out there as a result of what good did all this do for me. Yeah, there's just a lot of problems. I won't spend time right now getting into all the problems, but I'm not a big fan of college anymore. But yes, they are now in their jobs. Some of them, I'm sure, have expressed to you like it's kind of boring, a rut. They didn't expect this. What they're expressing is the very thing I just said, that there's no application of their minds into their job where they can themselves create and build value and build wealth for the company. It doesn't, they're just told what to do. Here's your list of job responsibilities, and they go in and do that. Now, you know that we're starting the NeoThink University. And in that NeoThink University, I am going to teach people how to, in the most stagnation trap you can imagine, how they can actually turn that into what I call an area of purpose, where they really feel they have purpose in life, because they can turn that around into a job that's building value, that's creating value, and building wealth for the company. And believe me, they're going to rise right to the top once they reach that point. I showed the actual turnkey techniques on how to turn a stagnant, routine rut with dead-end responsibilities that aren't going to take you anywhere, and how to almost magically turn that job into a job that you're using your mind, you're contributing to the essence of the business, and you're just going to rise up with those techniques. So that's something that's coming in the NeoThink University, because I've just seen too many people who graduate from college or high school or get into the workforce, young people all the way up to middle age, older people who are stuck and they have no way out. They have no purpose to their lives as far as creating values, which is their essence as a human being. And they know something's wrong, something's not right. And it's because they are not living in harmony with their essence. They aren't able to use their minds to create, to build value and wealth for the company. And also, anyone who is stuck in a stagnation trap and they want to take a chance to go out on their own and start a business, I provide in NeoThink U, I provide everything that's needed for someone to go out and start their business and do it with minimal risks, with maximum payoffs. It's all by understanding the great need of business, integration and integrated thinking, which leads to creativity, our essence. And that leads to everything else. Friday night essences, downstream focus. It just leads to incredible momentum and, in the end, power and wealth in your life.
So how does one in that situation go to do what you just said?
Okay, well, we'll just give the Reader's Digest version here, meaning just a summary, okay? Because I want to take more time with people in NeoThink University to sit down with them and work through it with them. But basically, you're in this stagnation trap with these set responsibilities, dead-end responsibilities, I call them. I want to make those responsibilities come to life. Now, here's how you go about that. You look in your business at the areas in the business that can actually grow wealth.
The money-making areas.
Correct, the numbers. And that could be seeing how to increase business, customers. It could be how to increase efficiencies that saves the company money. But you start looking around and spotting those areas. It's through a program I call Project Curiosity. You get into your company and look at it like a child would look at things with this curiosity that wants to figure things out. And it's very different than the way you've approached your job before, where, oh God, let me get through these and let me go home. You go in and you do the wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, childlike curiosity, and you come and you just start learning about your business. Whoa, ask questions. Who started this? What happened? Where's it? What are we doing? All this, and you start even talking to your coworkers. Tell me about what you're doing. How does that work? Well, wow, and you compliment. Wow, you're a good worker, man. And so you're starting to build friendships and leadership by doing this, because they feel that you are truly someone interested in succeeding in this business.
And through that process, like you said, you approach it almost like a child would, and the child would ask you a million questions,
Exactly.
almost to
Yes.
the point where it could be annoying.
Yes.
But that's just their curious mind. They want to know. They ask, why?
Yes.
What is that? Why do you do it that way? Does it need to be done? Well, what about over here? Why does that need to be done over here? And then through that process, you just, by figuring out the different areas, different types of things going on in your company, you start growing your integration capacity as well, which is higher level thinking.
Yes, higher level thinking. You're starting to break out of your little tunnel vision down here, and you're rising up, starting to see everything, and you start thinking, well, what if I pulled this over here? What would happen? What if you're seeing the whole company for the first time, which expands your mind and allows you to start integrating. Remember, integration, integrated thinking. And by the way, we were just talking today about integration and how that's a key in business, if not the key. You sent me a little thing you saw online about Steve Jobs, the thinkers versus the doers, I think it was.
It was a clip from a Steve Jobs interview where the guy asked him, what are your thoughts on thinkers versus doers?
And basically, what does Steve Jobs tell him?
That it's an integration. So, in that the thinkers, the people who actually build and innovate, and the most successful people throughout human history, the biggest innovators and creators, Da Vinci, they were doers, but they also happen to be the biggest thinkers. And so the ones who actually rise up and succeed are the ones who think and do through that integration process.
Right, and there you go, integration. And you talked, like you said, about Leonardo da Vinci, and about how he wasn't, say, just an expert in any one thing, how he's just an integrator and integrate many things.
And not just thinking about 5 years in the future, I could, if only I had this technology to do this and that. He today, or at that time, in that day-to-day, he would do. He would make do with what he had. He knew chemistry. He would mix his own pigments and things like that.
And he was like calibrating things on his own. He was just in there doing it and thinking about it, doing both. Integration. And that brings me back to what I use this sometimes, I call it the atom of business. And that's the one man, one cart candy vendor in the streets of New York. Now, I've always said if he was just really good at just making great candies, he won't be successful, because there are many other factors involved. There's marketing, there's positioning, there's janitorial skills, there's cleanliness, there's accounting, there's ordering inventory and timing it so that the perishables don't go bad on you, and so you don't run out of candy. No matter how great your candy might taste, if you don't know where to stand and what times to stand, and if you don't have good little unique marketing techniques, like maybe you design some fans to blow the sweet aroma of your chocolate in the faces of passersby, you aren't going to sell a lot of candy. If you have a dirty, broken down, smelly cart, no matter how great your candies taste, they're not going to come and buy it. You have to integrate everything. That was something that Milton Hershey, who became the chocolate king, was so good at. He started off that way. He was just pushing a candy cart out in the streets, and look what he rose to become. Great integrator, built the Hershey town in Pennsylvania, and he created the greatest value to mankind, and that's thousands of jobs, very happily employed people. So integration is such a key factor. And when you divide companies down by the division of labor, there's no integration. It's just, here's your set responsibilities. It's specialization. It's the opposite of integration. So now back to, how do you pull yourself out of a situation like that? You come in with project curiosity. You're like the childlike. You're learning everything about the business. You're asking your coworkers. That's causing you to rise up out of your tunnel vision, out of that stagnation trap.
Lower level thinking of what's just in front of your faces.
That's right. And you're starting to see things from a higher level. So you can start with that power, looking down at everything, you can start pulling together integrations. And here's what you do. You start looking at where are the areas in this company where the money can be made and where values can be built. And you're looking around in your company and you say that, and you point to something. You start saying, what are the areas in the company that can build wealth? And then you define those and you say, I want that one. And you point to what you want. Let's say in our publishing company, it's you want to be in charge. You see that there's a lot of money that could be made through advertising on television or YouTube. Well, if you're stuck in the purchasing department, purchasing paper, purchasing books, purchasing ink, if you're stuck in that department, remember, division of labor, that's a department. Division of labor breaks the companies down by departments and specialized jobs within those departments. How much are you ever going to rise up? You're never going to rise up because you're stuck in that specialized, what I call dead-end ends in themselves responsibilities. These responsibilities you do don't integrate into anything bigger, into how to make money and how to build values. But if you can get into handling, say, television or YouTube marketing, well then, you're moving yourself into an area that can grow, and you, through your creativity, can grow that and can build the value. So you start looking at those responsibilities that are necessary to move yourself into that position. And you start slowly and skillfully learning about those responsibilities and what is underneath responsibilities. Nitty-gritty details. And I can tell you from all my years of experience, people are more than happy to let go of nitty-gritty details. If some ambitious young man comes in and says, I'll handle that, they'll let it go. So you go in and start sucking up these nitty-gritty details that start pulling together the responsibilities that will lead you into the area of purpose that you're interested in, YouTube marketing or television marketing, whatever it is. And those responsibilities that you're beginning to pull together, those are what I call mentally integrating responsibilities that need to be integrated by one mind. I contrast that to the way most businesses are broken down today by split responsibilities. That means someone in this department has a piece of that, someone over here has another piece of that, someone over here has a piece, someone in this job has a piece of it, and basically it all has to be coordinated, and you're slow, and the company fails eventually under its own weight. But mentally responsibilities pulls together those split responsibilities. I'll take this from this department. Let's say it's data, tracking the data. Well, I'll learn this data. I'll learn how to do this. So now you've got it under you. And then you're going to learn about filming and the details about filming. And then you're going to learn about placement of the ads. And you start pulling all this knowledge together. And then the next thing you know, you provide a campaign, a marketing campaign in the YouTube or the television marketing. And because you're learning all the responsibilities, you can move swifter and you can move with more integrated grasp on the project. And as a result, and again, we teach this in detail. This is a very short summary of it in NeoThink University. You will start to be superior to others doing this job, and it will just start coming to you, and you will rise up as a success. So that is one way to do this, and it's really explained in NeoThink University. Now, another way is simply to break out on your own, in which we also teach those skills in NeoThink University. So that's just a little Reader's Digest version of, or a summary of what you can do.
Mm-hmm. So really it's Project Curiosity, just to recap. Project Curiosity, learning more about the business, and expanding your integration capacity. And then spotting areas of purpose, which are the money-making areas of your business. Because if you're not where the money is, your job almost is disposable.
Right. It's either disposable or in some way or another you're providing pieces to that, but you don't know how they integrate, what they do particularly. You're just doing your set responsibilities, your dead-end tasks.
Right. And then so you identify the nitty-gritty details of the areas of purpose, and then you start one by one taking them over until eventually you can pull together your own area of purpose. And then from there, you start building wealth for the company, increasing your value, increasing the value of the company, and thus rising to the top.
Yes, I've seen many of my readers go through that process, and we're very, very successful with that process.
Right. And of course, there's a lot more details in NeoThink University. So that's rising to the top in your own business or in the company that you work for. And then you also, in NeoThink University, talk about how to, rather if you want to do something yourself, start your own business, if there really is no room to grow up in the company you're currently working for, you show step by step the process of exactly how to do that without risking your current income, and which that will be a whole nother talk that we have.
Yes, yeah. And that breaking out is a tremendous liberating experience. But coming back to what we were just discussing, this is how people begin to feel purpose in life. If they have a job that they are building value and building wealth for the company, then they are experiencing purpose in their lives because they are doing something meaningful. They are doing something in harmony with their essence. They are using creativity, which is the essence of man. They are not stuck in a stagnant rut. They are using their minds, and they generate purpose in their lives. This is how your friends can break out of this disillusionment they're experiencing. And this is how I teach people of all ages how to get purpose in their life. Once they have purpose, they have feelings of fulfillment, success, happiness, self-esteem, and they find meaning in their lives, which is largely lacking today, which is why we have the record number of therapists and suicides in America today. That all goes away once you have purpose, meaning, fulfillment, happiness.
So the reason for that disillusionment, lack of fulfillment, self-esteem, and getting stuck in that stagnation trap is people aren't doing what they're made for, what they're born for. They're not using the power of their mind and not living in harmony with their essence as a conscious human being, which that essence is creation. So they're not creating values, building wealth, creating things, moving things forward, and solving problems, and creating things where nothing existed before.
And that's where they start getting these overwhelming feelings that there must be something more. And that starts leading people to, depression and bad feelings about life. And all that goes away. All that goes away once a person finds purpose in their lives.
You mentioned before about how the specialization in the way companies are structured and organized prevents that. And I remember after going through NeoThink University, I know you talk about actually why this happens, not just because. So there's unfortunately some sinister reasons why it's like that. And you mention and you teach or you expose it how, for example, leadership position, managerial roles, they themselves, whether consciously or subconsciously, they need to keep their own jobs and their own positions and their own power. So if somebody under them starts to outperform and starts to rise up, their own personal job is threatened. And so you talk about how, whether consciously or unconsciously, that managers and people in leadership positions, people who rise to the top and get eventually lazy, some of them become dishonest, and then they set up the company and structure so that other people can't rise above them and rise up and perform better to potentially take over their job or do better than them. And so there's also ego that comes into play.
Yes, right. I said that this all started because of the division of labor and misusing it into business. But this is now, since then, what you're saying is very, very true. That, in fact, I call this the white collar hoax. And that is, you get these smart individuals who, maybe went through college, did well, but they took sort of a shortcut to the top. They ride the business that the founders and the early real roll up the sleeves creative doers built. And then you can ride these great companies, these great corporations for decades, but actually dishonestly. You sort of, because you're smart, you kind of are good with workplace politics, and you work your way up to the top. And you do want to suppress competition from within. So you don't really want to see those great integrated thinkers like in the early days. So you do set up your departments and so on. It makes it difficult for people to actually rise up and become integrated thinkers. I use an example in my business book about the early founders and creators, industrial empire builders. I think I used William Durant as an example and how he encouraged Charles Nash to rise up in General Motors. And then later on, Henry Ford and another company, big competitor, Ford Motor Company, the grandson, Henry Ford, the second, because Henry Ford's son was Edsel, and then Edsel's son was Henry Ford. So Henry Ford, too, felt threatened by Lee Iacocca, who was an integrated thinker and rising up. So he got rid of Lee Iacocca. Well, Lee Iacocca, of course, went to Chrysler and became an incredible, powerful force behind the rise of Chrysler Motors. But that was an example. There's the difference. The original founder, William Durant, founder of General Motors, encouraged integrated thinkers to rise up. And then you get the white-collar hoax in there, like Henry Ford too, and they ride the business. They're riding the business. They're enjoying the wealth and power that they have, and they suppress rising integrated thinkers. You got to get rid of that incredible Lee Iacocca, who ended up going to Chrysler. So, yes, that's the white-collar hoax, and that's very prevalent now in American business, big business, very prevalent. And it's even more prevalent in politics. I can also call those people the white-collar hoax as well, those career politicians particularly, and those regulatory bureaucrats, and also a lot of people in the influential class like journalists, the media, anchor people. They're very dishonest, and they are smart. They're very smart. So they found a way that they could, with great politics and business politics, rise up to the top. But they suppress integrated thinkers and forces rising up. I'm real genuine value builders, and that's why we have this move towards socialism. It's suppressing the great geniuses of society, the real heroes of society, who would take away the glory and power from these, I don't want to say names, but there's so many names that just fly off the top of my head when I start thinking career politicians, but I won't say their names. Keep it all, private here as to what my thoughts are politically. But you have these horrible regulations suppressing these great geniuses of society, whether it's in business or health. And that leads us to, what my ultimate goal is to start a new country. We're working on that now. to where we can get away from ruling classes and have the prime law as our Constitution, and have the health mecca of the world, because all the great geniuses of society who are in the health field will come there, where they're free and liberated to do what they need to do at the rapid clip that we need to cure these very complex diseases like cancer, heart disease, and aging itself, cellular degeneration. And businesses would soar. I mean, value creators, we'll call it, because business is too polluted of a word now. So these value creators, these true, pure value creators, could soar, drive down costs, drive up values, make everyone who lives there live like multimillionaires without even lifting a finger, because everything will be so inexpensive and the prosperity and standard of living would be so high. So anyway, that's where we're headed down the road. So I thought I'd just throw that in. But coming all the way back, people need purpose in their lives. They're not getting it from their jobs. So either you leave your job and start your own business. You must go to NeoThink University in order to do that. Or you come to NeoThink University if you love your place of work, love the company, and we're going to show you how you can rise to the top of that company, just like Charles Nash did in General Motors.
All right. Yeah. Any last messages?
Yeah, I carry a sadness in my heart for the unnecessary millions and millions of people who go through life without purpose. I carry a sadness in my heart, and I'm out to fix that. And I know you're there, right there with me, Wallace.